Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very happy Monday to each and every one of you. If you're like me, you've often asked yourself the question, why the hell are the big companies in South Africa not standing up to the government? If anything, it is the big corporations of South Africa that keeps this government going, that allows them to steal literally everything that isn't nailed down, that goes along with their asinine BEE EEAA proposals and legislation, and ultimately, they are paying the price for this. Thanks to the ANC's mismanagement of the economy, the fact that the economy hasn't grown at all this year, by the way, and it averages around a 0.5 to a 0.8% growth rate. We haven't even received the latest quarter's results, but it was 0.1% for the first quarter of this year. Is it going to be higher? Is it not? We don't know. We'll see what happens. These companies are the ones paying the price for this. Of course, we're also paying the price for it. And yet they never speak up. They never actually come out and say, wait, hold up, what the hell is going on? It's been a constant source of frustration for me. And I do absolutely 100% blame all of them. As I made a post on X yesterday, if you're a big business owner in South Africa and you're still going along with the government, you have to understand that you are viewed as an enemy of the people. That's just how it is. If you're in bed with the state, you're an enemy of the people, because I think it's safe to say this government has declared itself an enemy of the people. Now, I'm not calling for violence or for anything like that. I have to say that so that the Hawks don't come after me. I'm just saying we should regard this government as nothing more than a terrorist organization at this point. Now, there's a reason why the government has this control over the corporations of South Africa, and it has to do with the government's investment arm. Yes, our government invests in companies. And the way they do that is every single large company that is listed in South Africa, about anywhere from 10 to 30% of that company is owned by the state. This means that the state could destroy these companies should these companies go against their wishes. It effectively puts the state in charge of business decisions for these companies. So that makes it extra, I think, chilling when you finally start to see people like, for example, 91's CEO Hendrik du Toit just spoke out and said, we can't keep going like this. Now, he spoke out as a result of reading the book from News 24 journalist Jeff Wicks, The Shadow State, Why Babita Deokaran Had to Die. Just a very quick refresher. Deokaran was a civil servant who worked her way up from an accounting clerk to acting chief director of financial accounting at the Gauteng Department of Health. In August 2021, she halted 850 million rand in suspicious payments to hundreds of companies linked to Tembisa Hospital. She was killed as a result of this. They literally slaughtered her outside her house. We, of course, just 2 days ago on Saturday, covered Bouwer van Niekerk, the lawyer that was killed inside his office, again, because he investigated or wanted to bring legislation against a very, very corrupt organization. In almost all of these cases, you end up with the police incapable of doing anything. The police can't find the people who committed the crime. The police takes years to actually bring anyone to justice, if anyone even comes to justice. And you have, for example, here on Daily Investor, they show you over the course of time, so from 2012, the number of murders that have actually been solved in South Africa. So South African Police Service detection rate for murder. You have in 2012 about 31.1. Now, I'm going to assume this is out of 100% because it says there are percentages. So about 31.1% of criminals or murders or murderers were caught back in 2012. In 2023, that number had dropped to 12.4%. So of all murder cases opened by the police, only 12.4% will actually be solved. Now, here is what 91's Hendrik du Toit actually had to say about this. It is time for all South Africans to rally against the criminality and corruption that is engulfing our society. Mr. Hendrik, you guys are the ones funding this government. You guys are the ones that continues to pay your corporate taxes, that continues to play into the hands of the government, that continues to kowtow to every single illegal demand that this government makes of you, that discriminates against vast members of the population. You play with BEE and entrepreneurship. So you guys are the ones that need to rally. We the people, we're already rallying, sir. We're already fed up with the government. The problem is you're part of the problem here. Unfortunately, our government is too feeble and too infiltrated by criminals and thieves to save us. It is time for the citizens to stand up for law and order. As I finish reading Jeff Wicks' excellent book, The Shadow State, which systemically documents the heinous corruption in our failing health system for which the whistleblower Babita Deokaran was assassinated, another murder was reported. Bouwer van Niekerk, a top insolvency lawyer, was executed in cold blood in his offices in Johannesburg. His sin was to pursue justice. Many people died for our democracy. We cannot let thieves and gangsters take over our beloved country. We cannot let criminals to get away with the murders of people like Bouwer and Babita while they rob the poor to enrich themselves. But sir, I will continuously come back to the same thing I said to you earlier. You are part of the problem. And I'm not necessarily calling out 91 here. I don't know the extent to which 91 is owned by the state or how they play with the state. But you and your ilk, the rich in this country, are continuously in business with the government. You continuously bend the knee to government. You support this government. There's a lot of companies in South Africa that actively donate to the African National Congress. If not actively, then indirectly by, again, BEE, allowing cadres connected to this government to work inside your businesses. Now look, I get it. You're going to get fined, and you're probably going to pay a lot of fines. So what? You're already making billions of rands. What business should do in our country is to basically give government the finger. All businesses in South Africa should stand up and say, no, we'll pay the fine. We're not going to adhere to your BEE rules. We're not going to adhere to your affirmative action. We're not going to adhere to your employment equity. We're going to hire people based on their merit, not based on the color of their skin. And we don't care. You want to fine us? Fine us. We just won't pay it. If every single person in South Africa started doing that, the government would have no options, right? There would be nothing that the government could do. Are they going to put all of you in jail? They're going to be up to their eyeballs in lawsuits that they're going to have to bring against every single company in South Africa. You guys know each other. You have each other's numbers. You could easily tell the government to go get wrecked. I want to be clear. I am not arguing that you should stop paying your taxes. I'm not arguing for a tax boycott. That, funnily enough, the government doesn't have to provide services. They can take your money. The government actually doesn't have to do anything in order to tax you. But if you or I were to, even for a moment, start talking about the idea of not paying taxes or boycotting taxes, we'd be in jail. I want to be super clear about that. I am not advocating for not paying your taxes. I'm not advocating for the country to stop paying their taxes. I'm advocating for the government to be ignored when it comes to their BEE, their EE, and their AA nonsense. And these companies can do it. They have the pockets for it. They can take the government to court. They can challenge this in the Constitutional Court of South Africa. And they can ultimately just ignore it. Right? And what is the government going to do? The government will fail and falter long before these companies actually is brought to heel. But we can't keep going like this. The problem is, it's not getting any better. Take this story, for example, where we just found out, and this is the ineptitude of this government. We just found out that over 400,000 domestic workers had lost their money as a result of the government. Because it turns out, and a lot of the people here literally say they can't afford it anymore. That's why they're firing their domestic workers. It turns out you cannot tax yourself into prosperity. When you take the money from the people in order to fund a criminal state, the people have less money to spend on things like domestic workers, which helps create jobs, right? For example, just look at this. And this is truly funny because I've been saying this for years. Any attempt to raise pay for domestics led to a decline in hiring. Minimum wage. You see, leftists love to harp on about how important minimum wage is and how you should increase minimum wage to a livable wage. What they never understand is that the other side, the side that is meant to pay this increase in wages, they're not static. They're not morons. I can think for myself. So when the government steps in and says, well, domestic workers, their hourly pay now goes to 50, my immediate response is, then I'll just fire my domestic worker. It's fine. I'm not going to pay 50 rand an hour. That's not going to happen. So I'll just tell my domestic worker, thanks for playing. You can go, right? But because that's much cheaper than actually having to pay the 50 rand per hour. And I'm not going to pay it. She's not worth 50 rand an hour. I can clean my own house. I do. There's nothing wrong with that. It makes it easier if I have a domestic worker, but I can do it myself, right? And even I wouldn't pay myself 50 rand an hour to clean my house. So fundamentally, this is just what always happens. No country on earth has ever used a minimum wage to get its citizens out of poverty, because across the board in every single country where studies on this has been done, they show the exact same thing. The only countries where minimum wage does not affect the employment rate are Scandinavian countries. In Scandinavia, they have incredibly high minimum wage, and some of them don't even have a minimum wage. And the reason they don't have a minimum wage is the exact same reason why minimum wage has no effect on their economies. And that's because the vast majority of people in those countries don't do jobs that pay minimum wage. So the minimum wage is super, super high. But because almost all of their people go to university, almost all of their people have degrees, they're not becoming baristas. They're not becoming domestic workers. They're going into offices. They're going into software engineering. They're immigrating to America to work in startups. So they don't need the minimum wage. And that means that the companies that require minimum wage earning employees, they're willing to pay a hell of a lot more because there's just no competition there. Or there's just no supply to meet the demand. But outside of that, in every country where there is a significant portion of the population that depend on minimum wage, when you raise the minimum wage, the amount of workers decrease significantly. And I don't know about you, but last time I checked, if the minimum wage is 50 rand an hour, but you work 0 hours, that is, math is hard. 50 times by 0 is, I think that's 0. Let me know in the comment section down below how you guys feel about this story. Are you as sick and tired of big business not doing their part, not playing the role that they're supposed to? Because I'm fed up. I really think big business needs to wake up and realize that they are part of the problem. And right now they are an enemy of the people because they're propping up this inept government. Let me know in the comment section down below if you like what I do and you think more people should have access to the kind of content that I make. Please consider hitting the like button, hitting that subscribe button, and also leaving a comment because engagement really does help. Massive shout out and thank you to all of the patrons and the YouTube channel members that continue to support this channel. To become a patron, hit the link in the description down below or just hit the join button right below this video. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, have a wonderful week, and I will see all of you in the next one. Peace.